Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful. So grateful that you're here. This is the Daily Medicine transmission for March 31st, 2021. We are at the very last day of March. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you are a regular, I so appreciate you being here. Your subscription to this channel, either on YouTube or BitChute. It certainly and truly means a lot that we are all part of this work together. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, either on BitChute or YouTube. That really helps influence our AI algorithm in order to get this content out and this message out to those who also may find it helpful or insightful or inspiring. So I certainly find it inspiring to be able to have a platform to be able to share these transmissions with all those who feel called to come here. So it is the 31st of March. We are on the cusp of April. I knew that March was just gonna it was gonna fly by, and it certainly did. And we are really now in the meat of the spring season here in the Northern Hemisphere, with the sun now in the second decan of Aries, which is the decan of its rulership. The second decan of Aries, the second 10 degrees, is the Three of Wands. It's ruled by the sun. And so the virtue is starting to grow. We are starting to see a way to utilize the desire to be, to actualize ourselves today. And also the sun is going to be in a sextile to Saturn in Aquarius, in the same place that Venus was. So yesterday, with this opportunity, this investment opportunity, with the cosmic order that we are starting to integrate into our lives and into ourselves, right? There is a social law and order, there is cosmic law and order, and then there is the apex of that, which provides a symbol of what it means to live on Earth and in a human body, and to be in physical form, and to be and actualize our potential as an individual, coupled with the cosmic order of the universe, the divine order that governs all things in this universe, and where that brings us to. And so this is just a symbol. And so we embodied that yesterday with Venus, and now with the sun in that position, we are going to fulfill our personality, fulfill ourselves and our expression of who we are through this same symbolism of cosmic order. And so much about today's transmission, for as much as we are in fact the storm, there is the bifurcation continues to be a theme that keeps coming back around, and ebbs and flows just like everything else, and it's coming back around again in a really strong way. And for those of us who have realized that we in fact are the storm, it's not something outside of us necessarily, it's not something that somebody else or some other group of people is going to execute. We in fact are the storm. There are many people who have awakened to this fact, and we are about to have another wave of awakening as we are addressing and just interacting collectively with the information that is now making its way to our conscious awareness. There are some things that certain people have been, including myself, have been talking about, considering, has been aware of for the last year or so, and some people even longer, and it is now coming to fruition. And we talked about this when Mercury and Neptune came together in Pisces, the mandate coming down from the mountain. It could be the voice of God coming through Moses, right? That is a very Moses type of symbolic reference. Or it could be a false light that's coming down. And either way, it has to do with where we are in terms of what message we are really receiving. So the I wouldn't even say the psychic attacks, more like the psychic astral influence is really amped up again, because there is this wave that is coming. It's building pretty strongly right now, another mass wave of awakening, and I've been kind of feeling it. I listened to Daniel Scranton's channeling this morning. I've gotten back into a habit of listening to his transmissions on a daily basis. And he also, his channeling, the transmission that he had was also very much, there's another big wave coming. And I mean, many intuitive people have, felt that the end of March into April, the Easter time plus, was going to be the next big wave moving through, and it's starting to build. And so not everybody is in the same place. And as I wrote a little intro for this video, and everybody is exactly where they need to be. And again, this goes along with where Saturn is right now. And so there's no way getting around that. We are all exactly where we need to be on this, graduated upward staircase to ascension, whatever that means. And it's not a physical location. It is about changing your, not even about changing, it's about aligning with the resonance of unity consciousness out of 3 and 4D, right? The third dimension of time, or 3 dimensions, right? Height, width, and depth. And then the 4th dimension is moving through time. And then the 5th dimension is that unity consciousness. So that's where we're going, right? And so everything is exactly as it needs to be. We made choices. All of us collectively made a choice to ascend. There is support, but you can't force the process. And Uranus has been pretty instrumental in this. And it's interesting that there is this semi-sextile, the 30-degree angle between Uranus and Chiron. They've been dancing around this now for weeks, and they are exact today at the very last minute of the degree that they're both in, which means they will then move into the next degree of Aries and Taurus, respectively. So that's a very subtle influence. We don't really talk about the semi-sextiles because they are often so subtle that they don't really make it a big impact. But these two massive and very slow moving objects coming into this is providing a very subtle opportunity here that we could invest into, right? That sextile is like investing in something, right? There is something positive and harmonious to come out of it, but we have to make the investment with Uranus and Chiron. So I'll talk about that too. We'll look at the chart. So, and the moon is finishing up her transit of Scorpio. And so we've gone in pretty deep emotionally and are now starting to come back out of it with what we are learning and going to project outwards to a certain extent. But this intuitive message is really to show those who are already in this place and waiting. And there's going to be some things here that we all need reminders of, that we are the storm, that we are sovereign, that we actually have power and the ability to shape our lives, and we have influence, and there are things that we can actually do. Now, the problem is that there is still this divide between the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect collectively of our lives. And that is certainly going to be coming together into this alchemical situation, but not in a way, how do I say this? Not in a way that's necessarily it's hard. Mars in Gemini, the North Node in Gemini, this is such a strong Orion starseed position where our willpower is mastered. The Orions and the Orion starseeds are individuals who are masters of the dialectic, right? The masters of their solar plexus chakra, masters of their willpower and their discipline, and masters of the dialectic. Like I said, able to move seamlessly from one pole to the other without getting emotionally involved. And so the Orion starseeds tend to be hyper logical and analytical, but that's because they see things from that mental perspective that Gemini presents. And now that Mars is full on past the North Node, is really now getting into the full alignment with the Orion constellation, and really activating all of these Orion starseeds. We really do need to be able to, the thing about Mars, right, we have to master our willpower. Mars wants to move forward, cardinal fire, right? That spark of life wants to move forward. We want to actualize. And with the sun in Aries, of course, that is really strong. With Venus in Aries, we're pulling it all towards us. We do need to exercise some discipline and some mastery over our willpower in order to get the most out of where Mars is, because now it's exteriorizing our discovery and experience. And we have the courage and the backing and that action hero energy behind it right now, in order to exteriorize our experience, what we've learned, what we've explored, what our curiosity has allowed us to discover. And now it's time to express it. You know, Gemini, in a lot of ways, is showing off our skill set, right? It is that third house of knowledge and learning, right? And sometimes it's like rote repetition, but it's also about showcasing our skills. And in this way, Mars, if Mars can really get that willpower and really engage with the Orion aspect of not, you know, there is a lot of emotion and potency and desire behind Aries. And if we can get that, I don't want to say under control, but if we can master our willpower so we can project it exactly where we want, man, we have a lot of power. We are the storm. We, the people, are the storm, okay? So let's look at the chart and kind of go through what to expect for today in terms of the astrology. So I hope everybody is doing well, taking good care of yourselves. I will say that I started putting certain types of really crystals around my sleep space in order to protect me, but also to like really bolster my field. I have hematite, black tourmaline. I use jasper. Citrine is an amazing mineral that will clear the energy field without having itself needing to be cleared. So this has made a big difference, and I got some really incredible downloads and connections last night that I'm gonna write a piece about later. So here is our chart for today. At this time, let's look here. We're at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. So you see the moon is now in the last decan, coming into the last decan of Scorpio. Always some mastery. Now, the last decan of Scorpio is that Seven of Cups. It's Venus in the last decan of Scorpio. So if we have not really dealt with the falsity and the illusion and the intoxication of all of this potential, then yeah, this is a problem. And this is why it came up so much in the last two transmissions. So what I do feel like is that there has been a lift out of this, and that there has been something really learned despite a real resistance to it. And some people are still going to resist it and be drawn into the false illusions and be drawn into the intoxication of this illusory success, okay? So, but everybody's exactly where they need to be, which is exactly where Saturn is in Aquarius right now. We are all equal in our divinity, but we are all in different places on this staircase. And there's a reason for that, because everybody has to be their unique individual self for it to work. For there to be at the highest order of the Aquarian collective, we all have to be truly who we are, which again goes back to the new moon. And interestingly enough, today, Mercury at 23 to 24 degrees Pisces is at the degree of the new moon of the cycle that we're currently in, right? Learning about our limitations, coming to terms with who we truly are and how that fits into our dharma, enacting our dharma and being realistic about it, and learning how to work interdependently with all of these things as we are surrounded by this ocean of the collective unconscious, because we can we can dip our toe in. We could go swimming. We could go out and go surfing. There's all kinds of ways that we can engage with this collective unconscious. But at the end of the day, we don't live in the ocean. We are on an island. We have to deal and be honest with ourselves about who we are and what we're here to do. And everybody is playing their role perfectly. Even the people who are the bad guy in your story. Everybody's a bad guy in somebody's story. And so once we kind of accept that, then we can really move into who we truly are and take responsibility for all facets of who we are on this journey. So that is part of Mercury. Again, Mercury is going to give us a mental perspective, maybe, an internalized review period of going back to that new moon, what this whole lunar cycle has been about, what it's leading to. And we had that culmination point with the full moon in Libra. So we really did get to see what it is that we are going to be inspired by and give us a sense of inner balance when the shit hits the fan, right? Because it does feel like it actually is really building now. And you can see it in many different ways out in what kind of information we're being exposed to, like what types of statements are being made. President Trump is being much more visual and coming out, doing more interviews. He's releasing more statements that are very, they are cutting right to the chase, aren't they? And you can and then with the rollout of a potential vaccine passport, what's going on at the border, like all of these things are starting to really be unavoidable in terms of having to engage with them, collectively, but also how that makes us feel. And this bifurcation that's within each of us is being, projected out onto the world that we see. And everybody is in a different place about it. So a couple of the transits that are happening today, like I said, are important to keep in mind. So the sun is in a sextile, like I said, with Saturn in Aquarius. And so again, we are embodying this yesterday with Venus in a very palpable way in our relationships, in our material world, giving us a sense of balance and cosmic order. Now it's coming through our expression of who we are with the sun. And again, it's an investment opportunity in a sextile, and Saturn is, the wall. Everybody is exactly where they need to be, and everybody's equal in the eyes of source, but everybody is in a different position on their journey, and we cannot force that. That is just part of the natural progression. But the investment here is that if we embody and then also express ourselves through at least a symbol of cosmic order, this will allow us to make the most out of this Saturn position, because it's difficult. We want everybody to be where we are, because then that gives us a sense of, I think, false validation that we are somehow right or in the right place. And that's not how it works. We can think that's how it works, but really it's that everybody is being exactly where they are. And that is what is going to trigger this whole new wave of awakening. Okay. And what else do we have today? Venus is now sextile the North Node, and that means is in a trine to the South Node. So pay attention here, because again, there's this, connection to Saturn and the North Node that it's going to be exact soon. And so this whole Aries element with Saturn and the nodes, I talked about this in the astrology report, how important this whole complex is about being where we are, and being willing to showcase our own individual unique skill as a source of inspiration. That's where the North Node is really pulling us towards with its placement in Gemini, and then with Venus in a sextile to this position as well. Now remember where the South Node is, 13 degrees of Sagittarius. Ooh, the retribution. So 13 degrees of Aries is a very interesting Sabian symbol. It's an unexploded bomb, right? There's frustration. We want to immediately change the status quo of reality and within ourselves. right? Aries is about the actualization of the subjective experience, right? The ego consciousness actualizing in, it's the first step on the individuation process. Venus here, you know, we won't have to do much if we want to align with where we've been collectively, where our soul has been, which is this idea that no matter what, in the process of alchemy, there has to be purification on both attributes, right? And if there isn't, it will come to light. The impurities have to be burned away. The widow's past comes to light, even though there has been a passing of some aspect, the other half of this widow, for instance, that her past, the widow, whatever that means, and that's, it's not an accident the way that gender is attached to these different Sabian symbols. It's meant to represent that particular energetic polarity. And so the feminine part of ourselves, letting go of one aspect of masculinity has to deal with all of those aspects before something new can come in. And so we have frustration. And so we won't have to do much if we want this retribution, if we're connecting to this retribution. Now, remember, the South Node is where we've been. This is not where we're headed. It provides the momentum, but it's not where we're headed. Where we're headed is each individual aligning with their own unique and specialized skill set and mastering it, being a virtuoso in that skill, whatever that is, in order to inspire other people. And it's very interesting that, if we can take that frustration of wanting to make change, we feel that frustration in our body. We want it. We want something to happen, and we want to make that change really quickly. If we can invest that energy into our own skill set and really master that, that is really where our investment will pay off. Sure, we can just let it be and align with that South Node. But again, we're going to be frustrated because it's not where we're headed. Although it's important, it's not where we're headed. Now, keep in mind, you don't see it on this chart, but I am going to tell you, Black Moon Lilith, true Lilith, is now retrograded back into Aries. So, now she is in a position, this dynamic of Lilith, if we can see her for who she is and see that part of ourselves within us and really take this opportunity right now to be real with it and real with ourselves, we can really utilize this energy for really profound change, right? Because it's survival. It's survival of the feminine. It's survival of that part of ourselves that receives and is connected to the earth. And going back into Aries, she gets an opportunity to attune to universal frequency. She gets an opportunity to attune to the resonance of the universe, to put it very simply. And so we all get this opportunity, that part of ourselves that we don't even acknowledge is running in the background a lot of times, that can really encourage our trauma in some ways, or we can act out of that trauma if we this is a real potent opportunity right now to get that part of us, because that part of us, if we can project it out, if we can utilize that, not even project it out, just utilize it appropriately, wow, then talk about a storm. You do not mess with Lilith. That's the thing, is that she will she's so powerful because she is the priestess in a lot of ways, but represents the priestess unchecked, the priestess that has not gone through her training and discipline. It's so raw that it requires so much discipline, which is the Virgo archetype, right? The virgin. So you can see how those things really have a hard time, interfacing with each other, but it's necessary. So that's where Venus is in connection to the node, the sun in connection to Saturn. I talked about how the Chiron and Uranus at this very last minute of this degree that they're both in this semi-sextile. That means they're one sign apart, but exactly at the same degree point. It's just they don't connect. But 30 degrees is a very harmonious number. There is a subtle influence here that we may miss, but this is really important not to miss today. Big picture, right? Being able to concentrate our attention on the whole organic picture, and being able to create that big picture within us, right? There's a real opportunity here of awakening when we realize that it's all within us and that we have all of the tools, all of the capacity, right? Uranus rules the realm of Aquarius, right? This is the collective third eye, right? This is the awakening trigger that Uranus, especially the birth chart, Uranus is that will to break out, and this is an opportunity here to really heal some wounding and and see that it's all part of the big picture of who we are becoming, right? We don't want to completely bypass our wounding or shove it under the rug or leave it outside. We want to integrate it, right? This is about integrating the shadow and integrating the parts of ourselves that we don't want to really look at, but it's a full picture, and there's a lot of shame and guilt about that. And if we cannot get over this collectively, or if some people can't get over this, this is how they are overpowered. This is how they become taken over by their own darkness. Ooh, we're going to see this in the intuitive message that's part of this larger transmission. So there's that semi-sextile today. That's exact. And then the moon is going to trine all of this Pisces energy, right? And it's also at the very end of the day is going to sextile Pluto in Capricorn. Wow. This is, if we can really harness this. This is like, this is a really strong like collective experience that is bringing all of us together in Scorpio, and we're each going to feel it. It's going to be something that we emotionally connect to, maybe intuitively connect to. This is why our intuitive recalibration was so important yesterday with the moon's transit through Scorpio. But now the trine to Mercury, the trine to Neptune in Pisces, right? What we are learning and discovering, and the truth that we are bringing up from the depths, very much structurally supporting the, where all of this Pisces energy is, right? The emotional aspect and being able to connect the depth of who we are to the expansiveness of who we are from a spiritual sense. The water does represent how we feel, and how we feel is often when we have a spiritual awakening, or when we have a spiritual experience, is about how we feel. Plus our intuitive nature is how we feel, right? Our psychic abilities are how we feel. Certainly it comes through in a lot of different ways, but this is why it's important to understand what it feels like in your body. And when you get intuitive hits, psychic awareness, things like that. So when it trines, right, when there's this trine to Neptune, and there's this trine to, where are we at? Mercury. Let's see here. There's going to be this release of a socially accepted release, whatever that means, of these really aggressive instincts, because that is also part of the Scorpio archetype, is that these crimes of passion, for instance, really come out of the Scorpio in the 8th house realm, because when we go into that space and we really look at our shadow, there is a lot of different ways that people respond to this. Some people stay stuck there. Some people push back. Some people act out. And some people wake up, right? This is the ego death in some ways. So there is going to be some sort of socially accepted release of our instincts here that is very connected to where Neptune is and the mandate that's brought down. So look for opportunities in order to, there's just a lot of aggression and a lot of frustration that's in this chart today that has the ability to be channeled really effectively if we understand it. Now, Jupiter is going to square the moon as well later today, and for as much as we want to bring this inspiring message back into everyday life, the square is going to come because Jupiter is expanding on our ability to really discipline ourselves and discipline our energy, and it's fixed, a lot of fixed squares, because with Aquarius it's about our mind and it's about our intellect. Whereas, again, Scorpio is about the fixed water, the depth of who we are, the emotional experience. And so there's going to be there's going to be a struggle here because we want to be inspired and then find a way to integrate that into our everyday life. Whereas Jupiter is really expanding and providing a lot of benefit in some ways, right? Is really advocating for our mental training. But we don't want to leave out the personal emotional experience of being inspired as well, right? We have to leave room for that. And, Jupiter takes up all the space, right? Jupiter is, the advocate of truth. And so, but at the same time, we want to allow in this inspiration that the moon in Scorpio is going to allow for today, and comes in and then is in a trine to Mercury right after that as well. And this is the ability to be like an X-ray, like we can see into the underlying structures through our own intuitive nature, through our own inner, right? This is again why it's important to recalibrate our intuitive nature, because then we have the capacity to acquire knowledge of structural factors underneath the surface. And this is going to allow for a purification. Oh, wow. And in a moment of crisis, right, catharsis, we're going to be able to see the underlying structure of that catharsis and that crisis that does ultimately lead to purification. And it's going to come through the realm of the mind, something communicated to us, something that is going to be manifested with Mercury. And then at the end of the day, the moon is going to sextile Pluto. So we have some connection here because the moon and Scorpio and Pluto are all related. The sextile is because the Pluto is in Capricorn. And there's an aggressive glorification of our own cultural values that we're going to feel inside of us. And this is really, again, we can invest this energy into where Pluto is and really activate what otherwise is really hard for people, which is the destruction of the old matrix, which is what Pluto has been doing since 2008 when it came into Capricorn. Now we're dealing with the highest levels of Capricorn and being destroyed in terms of the old matrix. Not to say that something won't take its place. Of course it will. That is the nature of nature, right? There's no vacuum here. But if we really want to accept and align with this destructive tendency that Pluto represents, there is a collective coming together, and it's like a military band marching through the street, right? It's just like we're all together and we're all going to be really loud about it, and we're going to glorify our values. And when we do that, that allows us to invest that energy into where Pluto is, and this is going to be pretty remarkable, I would say. So a lot of energy that has to do, like I said, that's kind of aggressive and it's frustrated. But if it can be channeled correctly today, wow, and it'll be within us, right? Because the moon is about our personal experience, what's going on internally, and being able to connect very seamlessly with other people's experiences too. The moon is represents our internal waters that connect to the collective unconscious, which is Pisces. So that is quite a mouthful, but it's important to understand what the astrology has in store for us today. So let's go into the reading, because this is much more about, hello, George. Okay. One day I will get this figured out, guys. Because there's just so many, there's so many windows open in this space that trying to find the right one that is this is really difficult. Okay, so while I'm messing with this, let's just look at it for what it is, which is you have the 10 of discs coming into the moment here, and there we go. The 10 of discs coming into the moment. We have the 4 of cups pointing towards that, right? The 10 of discs is the culmination of everything in a material sense. It is wealth. It is Mercury in Virgo, which I think is interesting, that it's about the end of our analysis, right? Everything has come around full circle, and at the 10, we are at the top of the cycle again, and it's ready to start over. So we've not only culminated and gathered everything in, we've also are feeling and knowing, right? That's Mercury in the mind, knowing and knowing that everything is exactly where it needs to be in a material sense, right? The wealth and security that comes from that. The present moment here with the 4 of cups, especially facing this 10 of discs. This is an interesting reading because it's saying that this very transient emotional security that the 4 of cups represents is really based on our feeling of wealth and security. And if we look at this just as a horizontal axis here of cause and effect, well, we have the devil as the outcome. If our emotional security and protection is based on the accumulation and wealth and security in a material way, well, the outcome is that we stay in the cycle of reincarnation. That's really what the devil represents. It's not necessarily evil. It is the Capricorn, and Capricorn is the material matrix unfolding. There's nothing good or evil about it. It is what it is. But if you want to ascend out of it, if you want to access unity consciousness, you have to also come out of Capricorn. That's why Capricorn's not the end of the zodiac. There's Aquarius and Pisces because they are something more than the material reality, but just as real and palpable. But if we rely emotionally, and many people will, okay, this reading is really about what to expect when our emotional security is based on our material wealth. And that doesn't have to be financial. It is about all of the physical aspects of reality, which is what Capricorn represents, the physical matrix. And so we get stuck in the cycle. That becomes the devil becomes our God, right? The devil becomes the focus of everything that we, project our energy and our focus and manifestation on. And again, it's not about being evil, although that does lead people to do evil things when materialism is the only thing that we are worshiping. So now with the energetic aspect, this is where the bifurcation, where people have become kind of disassociated, and it goes both ways, right? People are so disassociated from their material aspect and are so hyper focused on the spiritual aspect that they don't realize that they're actually doing exactly the same thing as those that they feel those on the other side that have disassociated from their spiritual nature and are completely material, right? I mean, that's the thing. You end up in the same place regardless where your disassociation is from. You're either hyper material and physical and you're completely disassociated from the fact that you're a spiritual being, or you are completely in your spiritual upper chakras and you're not grounded into reality on this planet at all, and you still end up giving all of your power away to this process and not bringing in the unification, or at least being able to work with the dialectic, right? Where Mars and the nodes are with the Orion starseeds. They're so important right now. I can't stress. Now, the nodes are going to come out of these starseed positions of Orion very soon. Mars will stay here, but the nodes specifically are going to start moving into new territory with the starseed locations. And I'll talk about that more when it comes up. The point is, though, that the dissociation is really, really strong on both levels, and the two world split is a big factor in all of this, and people are not feeling a lot of people are not feeling very safe and secure in their emotional center, right? So let's look at this one piece at a time. So here is our 10 of discs, wealth, right? And security. Here we go. Let's see if I can put my face somewhere. It doesn't need to be anywhere in particular. I guess we can minimize this a little bit. It's good to be able to see a person's face. Okay, so wealth, 10 of discs. This is Mercury in Virgo. You can see that it's actually in the shape of the tree of life. And so it's all coming down into the grounded position, right? The lower position, which is how the Kabbalah currently actually functions, where you bring it down and ground it down into your cord that goes into the earth. It's bringing the spiritual nature down into reality. So this is part of the Virgo work because it's about purification and discipline and being of service. And so everything you've accumulated is really meant to be given to the collective in a way, not true collectivism where you get rid of all individuality. This is about giving your individual self to the collective situation, to the unfolding. And so again, everything that we need is right here. Wealth, and it's the point where the riches potentials really unfold. So this is coming into the moment, right? All of this potential really coming to a culmination point, completion of the work. Remember, we had the universe reversed yesterday as the outcome. Also a very Saturn card, very similar actually to Capricorn and the devil. The devil is the dark side of Saturn, whereas the universe is the light side of Saturn, I would say. And so there is a culmination here, and wealth and security and a completion of the work coming into the moment from a mental perspective as well, because Mercury's here analyzing all of the pieces and putting them where they belong. And you're like, oh, look, everything is here. So this is the energy coming into the moment, right? The causal aspect. Now, when we have here the Four of Cups, it's not as great as it gives itself out to be at first, right? Luxury is a good way to put it, because it's not going to last, that's for sure. And you can just take one look at this card and you'll see what I mean, because it is gray in the background. It's got there's some ripple effect here, right? There's a disturbance along the water here, and it's the moon in Cancer. This is love without any risk, right? It's total maternal protection, which is as that is essential and important. But the luxury is the luxury, that there's no risk involved. It's stabilized emotions. And the freedom and the excitement are lost in a situation like this, right? It is such a transitory experience. And luxury is, in fact, also a transitory experience, in my opinion, an emotional luxury, right? We have this stability that will not stay, because that's not the nature of the universe. There's maternity, there's protection, there's security, and there's order. So at the heart of things right now, the axis point of the causal relationship and our energetic polarity, at the heart of it is this emotional security that's really focused and directed towards a causal situation of material reality being at its culmination point, right? We've come all the way full circle, and the 10 is when we're starting over again. So our material or our emotional security, the maternity, the protection is really focused on this. Oh boy. What can I say? And you can see how the devil, right? The worship of the material, the being caught in the wheel of karma, the unfolding of the physical material matrix and being trapped there, right? If you really, when we look at the devil card, I will expand it so you can see that they are the humanoid forms trapped in these two zygotes that are in the process of meiosis, right? That is the cell division of sex cells is meiosis. So there's no getting around Saturn, as I've said many times, and as anybody studying astrology or archetypal symbolism knows. But There's a light side to it, which is the universe, and there is the dark side to it, which is the devil, right? Getting trapped here and not seeing the full perspective. So our emotional security, let's backtrack here, focus much more on our material security, isn't it? And the culmination of all of our material security. So with the Five of Roses, this is reversed, okay? So upright, you see that this is two children. They're in a garden, right? This is a lot about children. The Five of Roses is a lot about children, but it's really about the dialectic and the innocent dialectic within us. These two children are within, again, it's very much like the protection and the security emotionally. You know, the roses are the emotions, the feelings, the heart, the cups, if you will. And so these two children, the young boy here is got a slingshot, so he's got this expulsion, outward projecting energy, right? That's very Aries and Mars, for instance. And then you have the young girl here who is got a little magnifying glass, and she's looking at a butterfly, and she's exploring, and she's being curious. It's a very Gemini type of thing. And then you have these two aspects together. Again, it's this expression outwards, and then this pulling in the Sun and Venus in some ways as well, but they're protected. They're in this protection. Well, with it reversed like this, the protection is kind of gone now. And so we do see that people are kind of, their protection and their innocence is being turned on its head. We do see this. We might even be feeling it ourselves. And so the children are that part of ourselves that are innocent. The children are the other people who maybe have not moved into the same state of awareness and awakening that other people are, the children. And when children are having difficulties, you kind of just have to let them go through it, right? You step back and you support them, but you let them figure it out. Let things unfold as they will, because they are going to unfold, and there's going to be a lot of aggression. There's going to be a lot of frustration, and it needs to be channeled through something, but we cannot necessarily get involved unless this is our own experience. And then in which case, you know, do what you need to do. And you'll see here that there are pieces of guidance that will help us along the way. But in terms of our collective attention and our focus, we do see that this garden, right? This, because it's based on material security, the, emotional security and the protection for this innocent, vulnerable part of ourselves that just wants to explore and wants to shoot our slingshot and not really think about things. Well, this is getting turned on its head. And so there's not a lot of protection emotionally. There is more vulnerability. And that child part of us or other people in our lives are certainly going to have some issues. And the blame game is really big when this card is reversed, because the children are having a hard time and having difficulties, and then they want to blame other people. They're not, because they're children. They haven't learned that you take responsibility for yourself. And we don't really, you know, and this is how, you know, children are just learning from the adults around them as well, who are doing the same thing. So we see this, we're aware of it. This is in our conscious attention, you know, this material security, this wall, this garden wall that protects these vulnerable parts of us is getting turned on its head. Okay. Now at the root here energetically, this is where I feel like the disassociation is really strong, is that we are emotionally rooted. And if we are emotionally rooted in this place that is disassociated, this is how we get to an alignment with this dark side of Saturn, where we can't get away from the materialism. So add some, I am here, right? You can see where all of this fits in, right? This person is got a book, and you know, she's studying, she's reading. This is somebody else coming into the room, bringing more information, and you know, she's on this trajectory here of learning and growing, but she also, her attention is kind of like, you know, taken away to the fact that, you know, this angel whispering in her ear and all of these other entities and representations are also with her. And so Adsum is basically, I am here, right? Now, when it's reversed like this, we have lost sight. And so people are energetically rooted in this disassociation. And we've lost sight of our purpose, our higher self, contact with higher self, our spirit guides, maybe our friends, and feeling very disconnected. And it's really important that we open a door into reconnecting with these aspects of ourself, because it's otherwise, right, this disassociation leads right into the hands of the devil. And this is the energetic root that leads to this. Not only is that aspect of the garden turned upside down and dumping us out of our safety zone, and many people were also rooted subconsciously, right? We don't even have a conscious awareness of where we are. And this is, again, where Lilith comes in, I think, and this potential to reestablish the connection to the universal order and reestablish our connection to our higher self and our purpose. Okay. And for those around us who are feeling this too, we have to feel some compassion for these people as they're going through their own process of awakening. And it's not like you wake up and then you never have to do it. It's a continual process. And again, this is where Saturn is. Everybody's on their own trajectory. Everybody's not even their own trajectory. Everybody's on their own step on this staircase, including us, right? We still have mobility as well. And so we have to be real with ourselves when we go through this process and not think that we have it all figured out. Because I guarantee you, the minute you think that, the universe is going to come along and spank you and be like, no, you don't have it all figured out. It's an infinite process. Because your human mind, my human mind, can't really actually wrap itself around God or being part of God. So it's an infinite process. Anyway, so we saw the devil. I'm going to bring it up really. So because you can see here, right, there's the mountain goat. It's very phallic, right? It's very phallic. With this here, and you have the circle, so there is the two masculine feminine components that come together. There's the serpent, there are the wings of the bird, the third eye on the goat, right? I mean, there is so much here, and the smile on his face, right? He's just like, I'm awake, I get it. Now, if you, like I talked about, here are the two zygotes. They kind of, I mean, come on, guys. If you could just look at the symbolism here. This is meiosis. These are sex cells that are dividing after fertilization. You can see all of this imagery. Just look it up. Meiosis, M-E-I-O-S-I-S, meiosis, and mitosis. That's the division of cells that are not sex cells. But anyway, and you see they're all trapped in here, right? This is the wheel of karma. This is Capricorn, like the physical matrix. We come back into form, and this little smirk on his face is just like, I get it, but I'm not going to tell you. You have to figure it out for yourself, that there's more beyond this. But it is such a strong influence, because it is Saturn, that in physical form, you can't get beyond it. But this is where it's headed when you base your emotional security on this material wealth, right? And as people are losing that security energetically and emotionally as a result of what is coming into our awareness, this is where we're led into this. Now, the potential of this card is to break out of this structure, to become aware of it. This third eye right here says something about that. We can break out of this structure. We do not have to keep going around the wheel of karma. We do not have to worship materialism, okay? We do not have to be just one or the other, spiritual or material. And that is a great segue, actually, into the guidance, because that's a big part of this message. Now, oops, here we go. The Two of Scrolls, right? The two worlds. This is, many people are still here, that they are in a bifurcated reality within themselves, and that they are seeing that they feel like there is a difference between their spiritual path and their material path. And many people are afraid to there's a conflict basically between the inner and the outer world. That's essentially it. And we're experiencing the polarity between a self-realized spiritual experience and personal, quote unquote, personal success, which I would say is this 10 of discs, the material security. And it feels like we have to let go of one to enhance the other. And this is the crux of it right now, is that people feel like they have to let go of the material success, right? What happens when you, say, for instance, I am not going to consent to getting experimental, quote unquote, vaccine in order to keep my job. That's, people are going to start feeling this bifurcation within them. And it's a big part of why people are now feeling a lack of emotional security, and they don't feel protected, and they are extra vulnerable now because it's based on material success. And so how are we going to step into our real power if we are only, feeling safe and secure within this material success? So that's a big question that people are going to have to start asking themselves. And the push and pull is going to continue until you come to bring these aspects together. And the elk is our animal message, which is about standing in integrity. Oh my gosh, stand tall and maintain your dignity no matter what, and others will treat you with the respect that you deserve. Stamina, majesty, and strength, and nobility and confidence. And assertiveness, right? Assert yourself, assert who you are. And you don't have to, that's the thing. Like, we think that it's going to be one or the other. And the reality is that you bring them together, and that's what it's like to be an ascended being on planet Earth. That is where we're all going. So if we want to, if we want to gracefully handle our lack of seeming protection and our vulnerability right now that we are seeing, then we got to stand tall and stand in our dignity, right? If we don't want to do something, we don't have to do it. That's what it means to be free and sovereign. But you have to actually stand in your power, okay? Now, when it comes to ADSM and that separation, right? That disassociation. Now, it's painful. People are disassociating because it's painful. It's painful to have to live in both realms and to accept what that means. It's painful to suffer, right? And the disassociation is a way to deal with suffering and trauma. So the rattlesnake is saying what we're going through is fulfilling this initiation to a purpose as a healer. And the foundation for compassion, real compassion, right? That Pisces element of compassion is an awareness that suffering is a natural part of life. It's part of being in physical material form, suffering, right? This is what people try to bypass when they are worshiping the material because they don't want to suffer. This is what Buddhism is really based in, the idea that the suffering comes from our attachment to materialism and our material desires, not so much the materialism itself, but the attachment to it. And so we do suffer as a result of a shift in the material reality. And again, this is very connected to that semi-sextile with Chiron and Uranus, right? The awakening that happens. There's a shedding that happens, a transformation that happens with Uranus in a material way that is giving us a very subtle opportunity to heal these wounds. And part of it is realizing that compassion comes from an awareness that we all suffer. And there's the Queen of Roses right there to add to it, right? I'm just going to put her front and center, right? Just think of her with this little rose in her hand is your heart or somebody else's heart. Give it care and nurturing and attention and love. If we want to not dissociate, right, this is what we have to do. We have to come back into our bodies and into our feelings and give it care and love. And so if you are suffering, if your heart is breaking, if you're having a hard time in whatever way you are, just hold that part of you right here in front of you. Give it Reiki, right? Love it. Send love. and nurturing energy, that female energy that the Queen of Roses really represents. We can embody this in order to really stimulate that compassion, and either for ourselves, because we may be dissociating and not even realizing it, because this is about where we are energetically rooted in our subconscious, right? That grounding cord. Sometimes we don't even realize, well, lots of times in our subconscious, it's what's guiding and motivating everything, but we don't have a conscious awareness of it. We are much more consciously aware of the fact that our stability is being threatened, and we're feeling more vulnerable than usual, but it's because we are dissociating from our higher self. And so again, bring it back into reality here. And part of that is in your feeling and your love and compassion. And again, the rattlesnake is an initiation. And when you realize that suffering is a part of everybody's life at some point, all living beings suffer in some way, shape, or form. Animals suffer. They suffer physically, and a lot of mammals suffer emotionally. I mean, if you have pets, that's really not that hard to wrap your head around. When you're feeling disconnected, realize that what you feel as a result of that disconnection is actually stimulating your compassion. And so you can really call that in very strongly today to help with this process. Now, if you feel like you're kind of on board with all of this, then this is meant to be a way to see other people and to be compassionate towards them and realize that many people are feeling dissociated and disconnected, both spiritually and materially. So there is, and the reason this all comes back to us being the storm is because it's our own power, right? Is we are the storm, and we have to realize our own power, but in order to make any lasting change. But that also comes with realizing that if we are solely emotionally secured by material aspects, for as important as they are, we are just gonna keep giving ourselves over to materialism and never really come out of that. And there are going to be very real consequences for many people already, and there will continue to be. And I know that that's hard to hear, and it's very upsetting for people who are very close to other people who have made choices about their what they choose to put into their body, what they choose to do with the the medical interventions that are being offered. There's a lot to be frustrated and upset about, and honor that too, right? That's a form of suffering, and that will cause us to dissociate, right? That will cause us to spiritually dissociate if we are like, I can't handle this reality anymore, right? But we're all here, so better get into a zone where you can handle it, right? So guys, that is the transmission for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you are interested in a reading just like this, or an astrology reading, learning your starseed origins, man, this is really helpful for getting that extra archetypal layer about what the mission is, because the starseeds are the ones holding the frequency of where we are potentially going, right? Reiki, shamanic energy work where we need to cut some cords or do psychic surgery. All of that is done remotely. So you can go to catalystenergies.net and you can book a service through the website. Also, you can join us on Telegram and Facebook in terms of social media, and you can reach out through email. All of this stuff is in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I love you so much, and I absolutely mean that. Bring that in, that Queen of Roses, to really feel actual love and compassion for everybody, regardless, right? And Saturn is being pretty authoritarian about it. Everybody's exactly where they need to be, so you better accept it, including you and me. So everything as it needs to be, and it's only really at the precipice that people are going to have the will to change, and we are getting really close to that now. It's closer than it's ever been. So thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the daily. Have a good day.